This time, the world-building juice is really a prompt that was put out in the Pastel Gnome Discord server. The prompt is truth/lies. So, I decided to go in the route of myth/folktale type of thing that parents tell their children. And since it's Halloween season, I thought it is fitting to make part of this myth, part of this folktale, have something to do with a monster or like a ghost or spirit, some type of entity that haunts children. So something like a vampire or like a zombie or like a tooth fairy. Tooth fairies aren't antagonistic forces, but they're like the same type of concept of like an entity that are not human that interacts with people in a certain way. So I thought it was fitting to come up with such a monster. So that being said, here's what I came up with for the prompt. When children lie, the adults around them remind them of the monsters known as the Shivers, who look like child-sized, old, wrinkly, bald people with many layers of clothing, and they're always cold. When people lie, they make the world a little colder, and the Shivers can feel it, so they come over to the person who lied and they pull out a hair-like, string-like substance from the center of their back, which are known as chill hairs, which causes the person to feel chills, and it also causes people to lose hair. The Shivers, when they pull out this chill hairs, they sew together a sweater out of it so they can warm themselves up with it. The more the string gets pulled out of a person, the more they will lose hair and the more they will slowly start forgetting. After enough times, all the person's hair will have fallen out, which is very embarrassing in this society because they usually have long hair. And they also won't remember where their house is nor where their mother is, and so they will starve out in the streets as a sad, bald child. So don't lie! Some people add that instead of dying, people will turn into a shiver themselves, cursed to always feel cold and to forever wander the world making sweaters out of chill hairs. But this is not over. This children's tale actually has its origins in two very different tales. One is a story you tell children to get them to stop lying, and the other is of the Shivers. Adults used to tell children, if you continue lying, you'll confuse truth and fiction so much that you'll start forgetting what's real and what's fake, and then you'll start forgetting everything, until you won't even know where your house is, nor where your mother is, so you will starve out in the streets as a sad child. In the same culture, they also had the tales of the Shivers, who look like old wrinkly bald people with many layers of clothing and are always cold. These Shivers are always looking for ways to warm themselves up, so they go over to people and they pull out the hair-like, string-like substance from the center of their back, known as chill hairs, which cause the person to feel chills and also lose hair, and they sew together a sweater out of it so they can warm themselves up with it, because the way that warms them up the most is clothing made of shiver hairs. The more the string gets pulled out of a person, the faster they age, and the more their hair falls out. However, hair can fall out for other reasons too, but this also does that. And then the chills get stronger and stronger over time, until at one point they'll be so strong that the person will die from it. Like when you get a fever and you get like really powerful chills, you're like in bed, writhing. If a person dies from chills, their soul doesn't go wherever souls usually go. Instead, it turns into a shiver itself, forever cursed to wander the world in a freeze, trying desperately to get warm. Priests give exorcism-like rituals to victims of chills to try to get the Shivers to stop taking the chill hairs, because they believe that when somebody is dying from these chills, if they're like really in bed with like a bad fever, it's because the Shivers keep taking the chill hairs from them. Part of the method of this exorcism-like situation is to make the room so cold that the Shiver wouldn't dare enter the room. I haven't come up with the rest of it, but that's like an idea that I had. In both of these versions of Shivers, the original one and then the one that I just said right now, the Shivers aren't there to punish people. They're just bad monsters that prey on people. Happens to be in the first story, those who lie become victims. So back to the story. I said that originally they were two different stories. One is where you tell children that if they lie, they're going to lose their memories. Another one is about the Shivers. So what happened then was that people had started associating the pulling out of chill hairs with memory loss too, because one of the things that happens as you age, besides for fever-like chills and hair loss, is memory loss. And when these Shivers pull out your hair, they make you age too. So it started being understood that they also make you lose memory. So the stories of the Shivers started including memory loss too, until memory loss became a bigger side effect than fever-like chills, and it became the most important part of it. Then, since now both the lying and the Shivers were both mainly associated with memory loss, one time somebody just made a connection there and the stories just merged. It didn't smoothly merge at first, because the Shivers are cold and they want to make sweaters out of the shiver hairs. What does that have to do with lying? Why do they want to make coats? Like, yeah, they make you lose memory, but why would they need to make a sweater out of you who lied? Like, why are they connected? And that's where this part was added, that when you lie, you make the world a little colder. That was a little addition that people came up with. I don't think they came up with it on purpose. It was just oh, stands to reason that's what it is, so that the whole story makes sense. And they also added that now the Shivers are child-sized because since it's targeted towards children, they're the ones that would die or turn into Shivers, so the Shivers are children-sized. In other closely related cultures, though, they never made the connection of the memory loss for lying and the Shiver monsters, so they still see the Shivers as a real threat that cause premature hair loss and deathly chills. So they still practice exorcism-like events when old people have chills on their deathbeds.